And welcome to week three. Welcome to the Blue versus Green show, the podcast, whatever you want to call this. I like to call it a dumpster fire because it seems like what all the New York teams are feeling like a little bit right now. It's been a hell of a week in football, specifically for the New York teams. Um, both suffering losses, both two very different losses, however. Jose, how are you?
What's up, man? I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. I mean, in terms of football, things are not great. Uh, in terms of some life circumstances, things are slightly odd. I went to an ATM machine yesterday, and it swallowed my debit card. So I feel like that's like semi notable. I feel like that happened. But the last week I spent it on a beach, even though I was actually working for some of that time. I went to Emerald
That's
Isle, North
awesome.
Carolina, with my in-laws, my wife, and my in-laws, and it was a good time in spite of 4 days of remote work. But yeah, I've
So
been
you
I've
want to
been
know
pretty
who
good.
didn't have a good time?
I did
Jets
have a good
fans.
time.
Jets fans did not have a good time.
Oh,
Um,
how's it
Really
going?
quick,
What's up with you?
let's get right into it. We had a couple games. Obviously, the Giants started the week with Thursday night football against
Hmm.
the Niners. Didn't go our way, and the Jets also had they. I don't want to take well. It didn't not just go the Jets' ways. It went as far skewed as possible. I think, not so much in the score, but in expectations. So we gotta kind of get right into it right now. Let's go ahead and start with the Jets. Um, Here are my quick thoughts. I'm gonna ramble on a little bit, kind of give you my own little take on the game itself. Um, if you came into the season with any confidence that you guys were going to even get to the Super Bowl, it was there because of everything that we saw on Hard Knocks and everything that we saw in the offseason, Aaron Rodgers, and just in like the way that the Jets do things, Aaron Rodgers getting out and having Zach Wilson back in the forefront is the most Jets thing that can happen. The second most just thing that can happen is losing to the Patriots yet again. And I think that yesterday was
Yeah.
was the biggest evidence that Zach Wilson is just not it. And there's plenty of blame to go all the way around. We've been chatting about it. Ever since the game, through the game this morning, it seems nonstop. I think everybody in the world is doing the same thing when it comes to Zach Wilson and the Jets and everything. There's plenty of blame to go all the way around, and I think that the biggest thing is, yes, Zach Wilson is not it, but I also think that Robert Sala is also not it. You guys, over the weekend have been like kind of pointing to the fact that the coaching was abysmal, and it really was. So credit to you guys for pointing out the fact that the coaching was that bad. But I have my own thoughts on that. Um, I think that you guys literally either need to, if you are going to go for it, then you need to do anything that it takes to get someone so that you can go for it. Or you just need to tank and get rid of Salah, get rid of Zach, maybe get rid of Hackett, get rid of everything. Okay, because that's just how I feel. I think that this season is over, and it's crazy that we're saying that on week three. Jose?
So I think that it was a really bad game. I think, like you said, there's a lot of blame to go around on all sides. I think that the issue that the Jets have right now is Walt and I have been talking about it, and I've been trying to get his opinion so I can represent it a little bit on the podcast since he's not joining us today. And we're of the mindset that at this point, Zach Wilson may not be it, but the Jets made the decision in not signing any veteran quarterback, literally anybody with a pulse that's played in the NFL or has some experience with NFL teams as a backup, whatever. The moment that A-Rod got injured, Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan have reached out to the team. One of those guys should be on the team right now. Okay. The issue that I have with giving up on Zach now is you're stuck with him. We are stuck with Zach Wilson unless you cut him. I mean, you can do that certainly, but that's a big cap hit. That's not the best decision to make, even in a situation as dire as this one. But you kind of have to stick with him. And I'll qualify it with this: you have to stick with him at least for the next 2 weeks. But you can bench him next week if he's not doing well, because it's the Chiefs, it's the Super Bowl champions. You can make a change in that game. The week after that, we're playing the Broncos. So honestly, that's the last game that I would want to see Zach Wilson have a show me game in. Next week is a little bit of that. Against the Broncos is a show me game because we saw what happened to them, but we'll get to that later.
I mean, yeah, it's to be honest with you, we've been kind of going back and forth. It's in a way, it kind of seems a little bit reminiscent of like how I feel about defending Daniel Jones. But it's to me, it's very, very different because when you're defending Daniel Jones, his biggest issue is that he has the coach, he has the skills and the ability. He's physical, he can see the field, he can throw the ball. We know that he can throw the ball now. He can run it, he can make plays. He's just not been surrounded with enough talent or enough people that work. He has no protection. He doesn't have receivers. And I say that, apparently still feels like that, even though we supposedly added, we supposedly upgraded our team in every single area. But he still has those issues. So you can still make a case for Daniel Jones because he's still lacking in his surroundings, in his environment. For me, the biggest issue is the fact that Zach Wilson does have everybody. He does have, a line that can give him enough time. And we'll get into kind of the deficiencies of the game in a bit, but he does have an offensive line that gives him enough time, at least 30-40% of the game, maybe even more, I would say. He has weapons that he can throw it to. He has weapons that can run it. He has a defense that can put him back on the field often and can make stops when they're all playing together and they're all clicking. And even though in yesterday's game against the Patriots, they didn't necessarily click the entire game, they did start clicking, especially in that second half. And I guess the biggest issue with the Jets is the exact opposite of the Giants, right? Where the Giants, we have the quarterback and we have the coaching. The Jets don't have the quarterback and don't have the coaching. That being said, I still think that at the end of the day, it's still in the hands of the quarterback. Okay. Even with not the best play calling, a quarterback is there to make the play, right? A quarterback is there to see what's available. And even if in the beginning it might be a little bit tough, I think the Patriots had a really good scheme against them, especially in the first half. They really were super sticky to the receivers. The receivers just really weren't getting open. So, you can kind of make the excuse for Zach in that first half. But that being said, he also made a lot of boneheaded mistakes. And the issue is that in no game, unless you're Patrick Mahomes or it seems like the Miami Dolphins, unless you're either of those teams, you're never going to have a game where you have complete control of the defense, complete control of the offense, where you have perfect play calling, and that your receivers are always getting open. I think every single team will see in any given Sunday, we'll see about 30% of their plays, receivers aren't getting open. 30% of the plays, you're getting pressured, but then 30% of those plays, you do have opportunities. And the issue with Zach is that when he has that 30%, he isn't taking advantage of the opportunities that are right there in front of him. And the biggest kind of example for that to me is the safety that happened. Zach did put together a great run that ended in a touchdown, ended up bringing the game to 10-13 against the Patriots. But that safety is indicative of him just not having awareness, right? The pocket is sometimes going to collapse. And as a quarterback, you need to have the awareness of what's happening around you. Is the pocket collapsing? Then see what's there. You're either going to have to take a sack or not. But in his case, he had two wide receivers right in front of him completely open. If you need to get rid of the ball, you get rid of it to the sidelines or to the obvious shot to Breece Hall. No, not Breece Hall. Who was open?
Isn't getting rid of it to the sidelines of safety if you're in the pocket?
Yeah. Unless you have like actual, receiver.
Okay. Let me address some of this because you addressed about 10 things, and I need to actually get into the conversation here because first of all, the idea that Zach Wilson is getting the protection.
let me finish
Oh,
my point though, just real quick. I just want to finish that one point that like that one play as an example is it shows you what the I think his biggest issue is. If he doesn't have awareness in the game, these things are just going to continue to happen. He's not going to he's not going to see the opportunities that are available to him when he's under pressure, when there is nothing else, and when a play needs to be made.
okay, you're gonna have to give me a few minutes because that was a long rant. Okay, so first of all, the offensive line. No team since 2000 has allowed a higher pressure rate through the first 3 weeks than New York Jets. So the idea that they're giving Zach Wilson time like other quarterbacks in the league, it's that's not at all true. Zach Wilson has no time at all in that pocket. It's even worse than Daniel Jones
Bro,
in most cases. Daniel Jones just
no
tends to run
way.
around a lot more.
No way. Are you kidding me?
Yesterday's game was better. Now, hold on. I let you go for about 5 minutes. Let me go.
It was not 5 minutes, first of all. But
That
go
was
on.
about 5 minutes.
It was not 5 minutes, but go on.
Okay, so that yesterday's game was better, but the idea that Zach Wilson is somehow getting great offensive line play, no way. It's absolutely the stats play it out. It hasn't happened this badly in 23 years.
The stats don't always tell the entire story of the game.
Can you let me finish? Can you let me finish? Hold on. I didn't interrupt you at all in the entire time that you spoke. You got to let me get through the right thoughts because you addressed about 10 things about this team. I got to defend my team.
Yeah, but you're making questions.
My quarterback.
You're asking what rhetorical questions then?
What's a rhetorical question? I gave you a statistic. This is the worst since 20. This is the worst in 23 years. 23 years, an entire generation, 2 generations almost. That's the worst in 23 years. That's statistic. That's not rhetorical. Okay. It was a busted block by Becton on that safety yesterday. Okay. The other things that I wanted to talk about is, like if you can't really blame the coaching and the management and the rest of the team when they don't play as well as they can in the first half, and then also put it on the quarterback entirely. To me, that doesn't make any sense because in the second half, he actually did very well.
They didn't put it entirely on the quarterback.
Okay, but in the second half, he actually played very well. He had over 100 yards passing. His efficiency was there. He made a lot of great plays because the play calling was different. In the first half, you had Bill Belichick stacking 6 or 7 men on the line. And even Tony Romo commented during the broadcast in the fourth quarter that the Jets finally threw on a first down for one of the first times in the entire game. It wasn't the first time, obviously, but it was so rare in the game that Tony Romo had to comment on it. That's piss poor play calling. You cannot say that this guy is not it. Okay, hold on. Let me finish. Okay? That's bad play calling. Okay, the runs were all up the middle. The wide receivers were all going 7 yards or deeper on every play in the first half. Okay, there were no checkdowns. There were a few screens to the running backs, but there was nobody else really from the wide receivers that was there and ready to help out in case Zach Wilson was in trouble. Okay, so in the first half, also, you had a completely busted coverage by Jordan Whitehead. This defense says that they're the best defense in the league, and I understand that they did incredible in this game. I'm not going to place this on the defense really, but if you say you're the best defense in the league, you got to carry that quarterback a little bit. You got to get him the ball at least a couple of times in that game. The defense played well, not a single turnover. This is the Patriots and Mac Jones. It's not Tom Brady anymore. Mac Jones is a decent quarterback. He's actually doing pretty well under the system. But the fact that you can't get a takeaway on that is, I'm sorry, that's inexcusable as well. And then the other thing about it is, like I said, when Zach Wilson finally got some decent play calling and finally got some play calling that was a little bit more imaginative, by the time the fourth quarter rolled around, he actually started driving the ball. Now, this is at the end of the game when teams tend to give up field for clock. And I understand that. But he was also driving on most of those plays. There were a couple of drop balls. And yes, he made some boneheaded mistakes. But he didn't turn the ball over and he didn't fumble it. Okay? That is progression. Okay? Now, listen, Zach Wilson is probably not it. On that point, we agree. All right? But again, the Jets put themselves in this position when they didn't sign somebody immediately after Aaron Rodgers went down, which is on the management. The other thing is, and this is where I'm going to represent some of Walt's argument, you have personnel that can actually do something differently for the Jets in terms of offense. You have Mecole Hardman, who's a very fast wide receiver that came from the Chiefs, and he's not getting utilized in these schemes at all. He hasn't caught a pass this year. He hasn't even really been in any snaps. I don't really understand that. You have other players that can make an impact and you're not using them. So that's another thing. Michael Carter's not getting any runs. Izzy Abanikanda, why do we have him on the team if he's not going to get in every once in a while? You talked about it yesterday. Gibson could maybe even be a running back with the way that he jukes on special teams. Why hasn't he been in the game in any other capacity with the amount of explosiveness that we've seen from him? This is my point. Like I said, I understand everything that you said about Zach Wilson, but he needs 2 more weeks because of all those reasons. The Jets failed him entirely in the first half yesterday. The Jets rallied around him in the second half yesterday. Hold on, I'm almost done. The Jets rallied around him in the second half yesterday, and something happened for them in the second half. The most boneheaded plays that Zach Wilson made were, yes, the safety, which was still a busted block by Becton. And the throwing short on 4th and 10 at the end of the game. But in terms of making mistakes against the New England Patriots, against Bill Belichick, to just make those 2 mistakes with Zach Wilson's
it wasn't just those 2 mistakes.
Those 2 big mistakes.
Himself. What about the one that he sacked himself?
You won't let me ever finish, man. Come on. Let me just finish my thoughts. And then I will let you speak.
Falsehood. You're saying he only made 2 mistakes. You're not going to count the fact that he literally sacked himself.
You're also saying falsehoods when you're saying he has an offensive line that's as good as any other in the NFL.
Oh, no,
and I didn't interrupt you there.
I didn't say that he has an offensive line.
Yes, you did. You said he's getting that protection about 30 to 40% of the time.
And he did.
That's not true, though. That's not true, though. It's objectively not true. The stats don't play it out. You gave a statistic. I gave you the actual statistic, which is not wrong.
Okay, but see, that's why you need to see the game, because obviously you didn't see the same game, because one of the issues, too, that Zach also has, one of the issues, hold on, this is why stats don't tell all the entire story, because one of his issues is that he makes some of the boneheaded mistakes that he makes is that when he's in the pocket, some of those stats where he is getting pressured is because he's pressuring himself. He's going into the pressure and causing that pressure on himself when he shouldn't. Okay. Sometimes he has like enough protection and he puts himself in place to be pressured because he's going up into the pocket when he doesn't need to.
And then that has something to do with the fact that the Jets receivers are all way downfield and he has to go through these long progressions instead of having some checkdowns early in the game, instead of being able to throw in a first down, instead of establishing a running game by not running on first and second down, run on pass.
You're kind of nitpicking as opposed to taking stock of the entire performance. And my issue is that, like, one great drive doesn't absolve you of your entire performance. And some of the boneheaded mistakes that he's making is not just 1 and 2. Okay. Sacking yourself is a big one. Okay. Running up into pressure is another huge one. Things that has to do with awareness. All of it has to do with awareness. And yes, Mekhi Becton, it was a busted play on Mekhi Becton. But again, that safety, I would put that on Mekhi Becton if Zach Wilson didn't have someone literally right in front of him, completely open, that's free. We're talking about like how can you miss that throw right there? And I'm just pointing to that. But again, he just and the other thing too is, again, I'm not excusing the entire Jets team, because I've said, there's plenty of blame to go around in every part of this team on the game. But I think the vast majority of, not just the fans, but the vast majority of people that have played the game think that the number one reason that they lost that game was because of Zach. Okay, number two reason, because of Salah.
Let me give you Walt's thoughts over here, and maybe don't interrupt me now because he's not even here to represent these. Okay.
Well, I mean,
you're still gonna interrupt me before I even say anything. Come on, hold on a second.
Oh my God.
Stop.
I'm just gonna be mute until you're absolutely ready for me to speak.
I'm giving you time to talk, man. You got to give me time to talk, or else I'm not even gonna get any thoughts out.
I mean, there's supposed to be a little bit of a back and forth.
I'll let you go for about 5 minutes.
There's supposed to be a back and forth. Not a hey, you shut up and then I go, and then I'll shut up and then you go. That's super boring. Who wants to see that?
I can't even say what Walt said. It's like 5 sentences.
Go ahead.
I can't even say what Walt said. Hold on. The receivers are not getting open at all during the game. The times when Zach threw the ball out of bounds, which was a number of times, were the correct plays because no one was open. The safety was truly on Becton, the left tackle. The Zach had zero time to throw. Becton, after the game, admitting to slipping on the fray, letting the guy go free. Honestly, I am beyond flabbergasted at how the Jets coaching staff is treating their personnel. Ruckert is their best blocking tight end without question, and in situations where they need pass protection, he can't even get out on the field. Mecole Hardman is another one. Why is Cobb playing over him? Cobb gets his first catch of the season this week, and Hardman, with the speed he has, can't get on the field. So Hackett, no innovation in play calling is another thing. No jet sweeps, no receivers in motion, nor short throws to the flat, no hurry up offense. The one time they did all those things, Zach's best drive of the game. Unbelievable how this coaching staff is approaching this team in terms of utilizing their talents. Makes me think that Hackett's run with the Broncos is not an anomaly. So I'm not the only Jets fan that thinks the way that I'm thinking.
Right, I understand that, but I still
and
think
Walter is a hardcore Jets fan. He's probably the best football fan out of all of us in terms of pure knowledge.
Right, I understand that, but I still think that like you're in the minority because even though yes, Becton, like they all said what they needed to say at the end of the game to the public, to the media, to show support for Zach. But I guarantee you that in the locker room, that's not what's being said. Behind closed doors, that's not what's being said. Okay, and yes, again, like I said, Mekhi Becton like taking ownership of his mistake. Kudos to him, but pointing to the whole Romo situation, yeah, like Romo pointed out the whole like bad play calling, but he also pointed out time and time again in the game, okay, better options that were available completely free for Zach. So you can't say that they weren't getting free, okay. And then the other thing too is that like what we see on TV isn't always what we're going to see. We're not going to see every single bit of the play. Like when we see, a replay that'll show us an angle and show like receivers not being open. A lot of that, and Tony Romo also pointed to this, is that Zach Wilson is looking directly at the receiver that he wants to throw it at. Defenders pick that up. They go to double team, or they already know that this is the guy that he's going to go throw it at. So they're more prepared. They're right on the receivers. One of those reasons is because of that. Because Zach Wilson is just not. He doesn't have the best field awareness. And the defenders can see that it's easy for them to pick up what receiver he wants to throw it at, and it's really easy to kind of defend that.
Well, I said this to Walt earlier, and he also agreed with this. Here's the problem also with the Zach Wilson experiment, and then I want to move on a little bit to the running backs and some things that Breece Hall talked about yesterday, and then we can get to the Giants game and talk about what happened there. But like Zach Wilson, for me, like here's the unfortunate thing: he's not a third-year quarterback. He's had a year and a half maybe of inconsistent play with no real good coaching until maybe this year. And we already see that it's not maybe that great in terms of offensive coaching. I don't know if Saleh is the problem. I think he has next year for me. And I think maybe Walt would say the same, although I'm going to let him speak on that. This year, I don't think is it. You had everything kind of plotted on Aaron Rodgers, and then the general manager and the team decided, well, you don't have Aaron Rodgers, so I guess you got Zach Wilson. So I mean, like he's a rookie or a second year quarterback at best, and this is his prove me year, and he's got 2 prove me weeks. Like I said, if he doesn't do anything against Denver, you have a bye week to maybe sign any damn quarterback on the planet and try to get him acclimated to the offense. So I mean, that's that on that. The Jets put themselves in this situation. Zach might not be it, but he has to be it for now, which is why you have to put a little bit more on the team, and the rest of the staff for what happened yesterday. Yes, he made boneheaded plays. The 2 most boneheaded plays, like I said, and Walt agreed with it, were those 2 that I mentioned. He made a lot of mistakes. He didn't throw to a couple of wide open receivers. He still didn't turn the ball over. I think last time he played against the Patriots, he had 3 interceptions. So that's that. Well, that's that for me. Zach Wilson, whatever, might not be it.
I don't even think that it might not be it. I personally think that he's absolutely not it. I think that this is already the 3rd year running with this entire thing. This is a repeat of last year. This is week 3, and you're having the exact same conversations that you've been having all year last year. And I understand the unfortunate situation with Aaron Rodgers. It sucks for Zach Wilson. I feel for the kid because he hasn't been he's not in the best situation to be who he could be. But the unfortunate thing is that at a certain point you have to cut your losses. And I don't see how you can put all this like faith in the Zach Wilson experiment. What, you're gonna like hold on to him for the rest of the year? You're gonna wait for Aaron Rodgers we're gonna try the Aaron Rodgers experiment next season. Zach Wilson will learn from Aaron Rodgers next season, and then year 6 he's gonna be your quarterback? This is why it doesn't make sense, because it's just not gonna happen at this point.
The
It just
problem,
really,
look, I
really
want to
is.
move on from Zach Wilson already and get to the rest of the team because we're just going back and forth on Zach Wilson for like 20 minutes now. The thing about it is, nothing's going to be more effectual on Zach Wilson's development than the fact that Greg Knapp, the quarterbacks coach the Jets brought in a couple of years ago to get him started, died in an unfortunate bicycle accident. Like, what kind of horrible, horrible thing is that to happen? Not only to Greg Knapp and him and his family, but like these are like the crazy things that happen to the Jets organization. It's unreal and unbelievable. And like Greg Knapp, like rest in peace. Again, so much respect to the family. I don't want to trivialize it, but like it's just unbelievable how the trajectory has gone at this point. Um, I want to talk a little bit about like what happened with Breece Hall in yesterday's game
Sure.
because I think he got humbled a little bit, clearly, by what happened. I think last week he said a lot about they didn't win that game because he didn't get 10 carries or 10 touches. And he got a little bit more than that this week. And he really didn't do shit on offense. Now, again, I put a little bit of that on the play calling, but in the post-game press conference, he was talking a whole lot less shit than he was last week after he got the touches that he wanted. And he averaged about less than 2 yards per carry, I think, in yesterday's game. I think it was the same for Dalvin Cook. I think he was a little tentative on the runs yesterday. He's doing a little bit of too much rope-a-dope, trying to juke before he hit the line and not running with authority. I thought Breece Hall did better with that, but the blocking just wasn't really there, unfortunately, in terms of scheming, more so than the blocking ability of the Jets offensive line. Again, I think they did pretty well yesterday. You said that, and I agree. Like, this was their best game so far, but they're still the bottom, the absolute bottom of the league right now, the absolute bottom of the last 2.5 decades of offensive line play. So, it was a rough game yesterday. I think the offensive line took a lot of responsibility. I think the biggest thing for me from yesterday, besides Sauce Gardner telling everybody that he got smacked in the nuts, is that this Jets team that's been talking so much shit and has gotten so much swagger ever since they signed Aaron Rodgers in the offseason, I think the whole team is a little coddled right now. I don't know if you agree with that, but they have this sort of entitlement because they're that good, and they don't realize that without Aaron Rodgers, they're not that good. So I think
I
yesterday
mean,
was a bit
that's
of a
your,
wake-up call.
you know,
Yeah, I think so, right? I mean, I think yesterday was a bit of a wake-up call. Next week's game is going to be, like I said, the show me game for Zach. If he doesn't do well, you can absolutely put Tim Boyle in against that point against the defending Super Bowl champions. There's no excuses. And then I think you can still start him unless Tim Boyle does something exceptional. If he were to come into next week's game and shows that it really is beyond hope, beyond hope, because again, they just put themselves in this situation. We don't have a quarterback. You sign one now. I mean, you either got to do it or you're already saying completely, like we have with so many other quarterbacks that we've ruined in the future that have gone on to better things. It's over for you too, kid. Like we've done it with Geno Smith. We've done it with Chad Pennington. We've done it with a great number of Jets quarterbacks. But I think this team got a wake-up call yesterday. And I think the team will probably play better next week. I think they're playing the Chiefs, and they realize they're going to fucking have to. But it's hard to say anything other than realistically, like this is starting to look like it's going to spiral out of control unless we can get a win in the next 2 weeks, and that's probably against Denver.
I mean, as much as you don't want to hear it, you keep pointing to it in your own conversation, in your own dialogue. It all points to the quarterback. So, I'll leave it at that. I'm sure that you guys are kicking yourselves in the butt for not re-signing Mike White. That kind of sucks. But doesn't suck for him since he threw a 68-yard touchdown pass.
68-yard touchdown pass to Robbie Chosen in garbage time of the Dolphins.
In garbage time, but he still threw it.
He still threw it.
He had 2 passes. He completed both of them, and one of them is a 68-yard touchdown pass on a legendary game.
One of them was for like 1 yard or negative 1 yards, I think. But still,
I mean,
that was the craziest thing. I think. Well, that is easily the craziest game that I've ever seen in my life. For those who don't know, the Dolphins won against the Let's Ride Broncos 70-20 last night. And I got to say, I feel a little bad for Russell Wilson. I don't feel bad for Sean Payton because he said that Tua was going to be benched by this time this year, and Tua absolutely did a Jordan and took that personally. I think they got 726 total yards and 70 points. Absolute insanity. Both of their running backs got 4 touchdowns each. It was, we joke about it all the time, but that was literally an actual game of Madden. And Mike McDaniel, like, I don't know, is he the best offensive coach in the league right now? Are the Dolphins the best team in the league right now? I guess I don't know the answer to any of those questions. But that was an absolutely crazy game.
Yeah. So anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the Giants now. Yeah. So it was a tough game to watch, personally, just because I thought that we would fare much better against the Niners. Already, like, it already feels so far removed, being that it was Thursday. It's Monday today, right now, and all the Jets hoopla has kind of taken over a lot of the news. Kind of, thank God, that they have. But I don't think that it was a terrible game, but it was a difficult one just because of some expectations. Now, the expectations that some of us have as Daniel Jones defenders and believers were that it was going to be a close enough game where we could maybe squeak it out. But I don't think that anybody really gave the Giants a chance to win against the Niners on a short week, depleted, tired, on the road, against one of the best teams, and who I think actually is the best team in the league right now. Even though Brock Purdy himself didn't have like the best team in the NFC. Even though Brock Purdy himself didn't have the best performance, I personally thought that Daniel Jones performed better as a quarterback than Brock Purdy did, even though Brock Purdy was bailed out a ton. And the biggest issues that we had, I think, was showing that our weapons still need some maturity, still need some to prove their ability. I still think that our team, as the Giants, are still working to gel with each other. A few good flashes, but the biggest takeaway of that game is that we absolutely don't have an offensive line. You say that the Jets have the worst offensive line, even if you want to say statistically. I don't think that there's a shot in the dark that they have a worse offensive line against the versus the Giants. I want to say I think it's like 70 to 80% of the time Daniel Jones is getting pressured. In
It's not what the
specifically
stats say.
in these last few games.
Not
So what?
It's not what the stats say. You can say anecdotally all you want about what you
If
see
you
in the
look
game,
at the game, if you just watch the two games
I
comparatively,
watched both games. I watched both games.
Jose, okay.
The offensive line was actually better for the Giants, and the defensive line got a sack this week finally. So that wasn't necessarily the problem.
Okay. Anyway, that's what I thought about the Giants. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the Giants, I want to say Daniel Jones did pretty well this week. He was very accurate with the ball. He didn't really have many options, unfortunately. The offensive line wasn't great. It wasn't as bad as the Jets' offensive line, no matter how many times you want to say it. It's historically bad. But Daniel Jones is also somebody that moves around in the pocket a lot more and makes it look a little bit more like the line is falling apart. And they actually did do okay, except for a couple of penalties in this game. The thing that killed the Giants again in a lot of these situations was penalties. Just boneheaded penalties, pass interferences, holding calls, all these other things. Like it wasn't all on Jones, but it also, like, here's something else that I don't think you're going to want to hear. Like, Dable, I think is a little bit cocky, just like the Jets are right now. He's got this aura of being one of the best coaches of the league, and I think his play calling was kind of not good yesterday either. I mean,
he's not the one making the play calling, right?
It's the 49er. I mean, he's the one establishing man, come on, man. You're going to put this on Salah, but you're not going to put it on Dable. What is going on here? Hold on. All right. So Dable is ultimately in charge of what the team does. All right. Okay. Man. Yeah, look, Dable's scheming and overall planning for the team was not good yesterday. What his offensive coach did and what his defensive coach did that kind of failed him was, again, like, when you don't have a lot of time, you have to stop trying to get these progressions downfield. And that's not as badly as the Jets did it yesterday, but a little bit early on. Daniel Jones can throw downfield, but the 49ers are not going to give you a lot of space downfield. You have to check down a little bit more. You have to throw a couple more screens, and there were a couple of drops on a couple of those screens and a couple of those short passes. On defense, I really don't understand why y'all didn't prepare for the screen any better, because you got eaten up on that all game. I know that Deebo Samuel is a yards after catch specialist. I know McCaffrey is great at that as well, but like the Giants were utterly and woefully unprepared for that for the entire game, and the 49ers won on that alone.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the one thing that was, well, not the one thing, there were a lot of positives. Like I said, the offensive line was good. The defensive line was good. The receivers played well in spite of like all the troubles that they were having. You know, they were getting separation. There were some drops, but they made some great catches as well. I think, who was it that got one of their first catches yesterday for the Giants? Oh goodness. Well, no, not one of the first catches, but Waller's first catch was pretty fantastic in that game. And y'all had a decent game job from the running game yesterday, and Breda did really, really well. He got some push from the offensive line. He was able to get into the 49ers secondary and get into the backfield a little bit, but it remains to be seen if he's going to be able to do that consistently. But yeah, I don't think that the scheming against the 49ers, the overall plan that y'all had to play them this week, was the best one that y'all could have put it together. I think it was kind of piss poor, to be honest. I think both teams, the Jets and the Giants, suffered from really poor coaching this week.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. But again, the difference between Dable and Salah is that Dable, when I put her on Salah, I put her on Salah on him just basically not doing anything. Him not doing anything, him not telling his offensive coordinator, hey, we need this, we need to do that. Dable, when he has to, and he's taken away the play calling from Kafka. And I wish he had done that more on the 49ers game. Although we had like some other issues in that game that I think, you know, kind of point towards the lackluster performance. I think that on defense, maybe one of the biggest issues that we had on tackling was because it was such a short week and they were banged up and beat up. That's a possibility. But with RDC, you know, I also felt like it was not the best performance, not the best. I think no. I just didn't feel any real sense of urgency from our offensive and defensive play, and that's where I draw the line a little bit different. You know, if you take a look at Dable on the sidelines, like he is getting fired up, he is trying to make certain things happen. I think that he is more in the ear of his coaching staff. Um, but
I
again,
didn't
we
see
had
it.
some deficiencies in that game, and yeah, they do need to play better. But again, the biggest issue was that it was a short week, I think, and it's tough to
Play the
prepare the
49ers.
team on 4 days' notice on the road against one of the best teams in the league. So
Probably the best team in the league. Other than like the 49ers, I don't think it's the Cowboys anymore. I don't really think it's the Eagles. I think
I mean,
or the
it's
Chiefs.
between the Chiefs. It's between the Chiefs and the Dolphins, and I think that with Travis Kelsey back,
Chiefs,
that
Dolphins, and
it's really going to
49ers,
be
you
the
mean?
Chiefs.
Chiefs, Dolphins, and 49ers, you mean, in terms of like the best teams in the league? Or are we talking about
I'm saying like
those
as far as
two
like between
separately from the
what I
others?
what I think is the best team in the league, I think it's the Chiefs. You know, I
The
think
Chiefs.
that the Miami looks great and had that phenomenal game, but they also had that phenomenal game against a terrible Broncos team that I think bit off more than they could chew. Um,
Well,
the,
I think
the
that
Chiefs,
game.
I think, have a better put together squad.
I think the Dolphins game demonstrates one other thing that really annoys me about what the Giants and the Jets both did yesterday. Or not yesterday, what the Giants did on Thursday and what the Jets did yesterday. You look at the Dolphins and the play calling, and Mike McDaniel is putting players in motion. The most simple fucking football strategy that's generally been used to create blocking situations, to create mismatches, and to reveal zone or man coverage. And what he's doing with it, if you've been watching a little bit of what Mike McDaniel is doing, is he's using motion to give his wide receivers and his running backs momentum. So when they explode off the line, they are exploding off the line at full speed. Why is nobody else doing this? Why is Mecole Hardman not in the game and going in motion? Why is Jalen Hyatt not going in motion and trying to get a full head of steam on these players? If y'all want to throw downfield, like these teams seem to want to, Zach Wilson, again, more stubbornly, and Daniel Jones has the ability, but like, how are you not going to give him some of these weapons and some of these things that any coach can watch film from another team? I'm sure the Jets are watching film from the Dolphins and getting ready for them. Why is nobody on either of these teams thinking about that? Hackett's supposed to be a great offensive coach. Like, where's your offensive coach making these kinds of calls, I think. And I think that that's the biggest thing that I had a problem with both of these teams this week. I think that the play calling was unimaginative. Was it terrible? Maybe not. But it's not going to do anything against these two teams. You're not going to beat Bill Belichick with basic-ass play calling. You're not going to beat Shanahan with basic ass play calling, and you're not going to beat the 49ers with basic ass play calling. And that's what these two teams gave us. They didn't support their players this week in terms of play calling. And that to me was the biggest thing that I took from this week. I need both teams really to bounce back. And I think that the Giants probably will. I'm not sure about the Jets.
Well, I mean, speaking about the coming week, let's go ahead and kind of give our thoughts on them. I think that there's absolutely no shot in hell that the Jets have a bounce back against the Chiefs. Your bounce back is going to be against the Denver Broncos. But we have both primetime games. You guys got what I would have been an amazing game if it was Aaron Rodgers against Mahomes on Sunday night for Sunday Night Football. And that's the Chiefs coming over here. So the Jets have a home game, so maybe that'll be the little bit of an edge. And it's, again, any given Sunday, anything can happen. Hopefully Zach does put it together. So we'll see about that. And then we have the Giants have the Seahawks also home game. So and that's on Monday night. So we got Monday Night Football with Geno Smith coming in there, which is an interesting game for me to see because a lot of outlets, a lot of people have Geno Smith over Daniel Jones as a quarterback. I hope that Daniel Jones comes in here with that chip on his shoulder. Although he doesn't really play with like a chip on the shoulder, he plays a little bit emotionless, which is kind of indicative of like what our QBs are. Like our QB DNA is.
What'd you say his face was like? Resting, like whatever face,
resting
like
gosh darn face.
Yeah, it's resting gosh darn face. It's the same thing as Eli. You don't see the passion from him. It's there.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, because I mean, you see it, like going back a little bit to the game with the 49ers. He throws it right on the numbers and receivers just dropping the ball. And yeah, sometimes they, and that we never got a chance to talk about the Darren Waller controversial miscatch. Was it high, or should Waller have made a play? Like you just got to try to make the plays. You know what I mean? I think that like there was, it wasn't a great throw. So part of it is on Daniel Jones, but part of it is on Waller too. Waller's there to make those kind of catches. And it's just Daniel Jones seems to not get even a little bit of help, because the issue with Daniel Jones and his weapons is that it seems like unless it's right on the numbers, they're not catching the ball. And it seems like even if it's on the numbers, people are just literally dropping them, just letting them slip down to the floor and doing nothing. So,
Breda had a couple of rough drops yesterday. That was a bad drop on that catch that we thought, or Thursday. Sorry, I keep saying that. That was a bad drop on that, or he could have caught that, like you said. That was a little bit high, and it was a little off his stride. I think Brightwell had a couple of missed catches that would have really, really helped. But, I just really think that, man, both of our quarterbacks got abandoned a little bit by our teams this week. And I think the Giants can beat the Seahawks, but I think that this is still going to be a really, really tough game. And I think that if we don't see some better play calling in the first half, then it's going to be a win for the Seahawks. I am predicting a Giants win, but I got to see more. And the Jets are not going to win this game, obviously. You just want to see Zach Wilson not completely fall apart and not turn the ball over 17 times.
Well, we'll see about that. So anyway, thanks for watching. It's been an interesting season so far. I'm not sure I necessarily like where the script is going, but we'll see what happens then. Don't forget to like, rate, share, and subscribe. Until next time, go Giants.
Go Jets. Peace out.
Peace.